Welcome back to the Urban Farmyard, where this city girl goes country. Today we're meeting one of the most popular members of our household, this little guy, who's known as Jasper the Dwarf. Hey Jasper, it's your video day. That's exciting, isn't it? Well, here we are, little Jasper the Dwarf. This is probably one of the most popular little creatures in my household. He is a permanent resident here at the Urban Farmyard, and he is very popular on our animal rescue page. This little guy is Jasper the Dwarf. He is 8 months old and he is tiny. He weighs less than 2 kilos, which is a fraction of the size that I would expect him to be at this particular age. Wee Jasper came to me from a lovely lady not far from us. I've got cat fur floating around, common problem in this house. Little Jasper was one of 5 kittens that her cat gave birth to. She was, typical story, booked in to be de-sexed, and lo and behold she ended up pregnant before she managed to get herself in to have her operation done. Fun fact, many vets recommend that you de-sex cats at about 6 months of age. That, in my experience, is actually far too late. They can fall pregnant by the time they're 6 months old. So here, standard practice is to de-sex once they hit 1 kilo. At that stage they are big enough to go under anaesthetic safely. But if you are, we do that largely because we are trying to prevent unwanted pregnancies, and we do want people to enjoy their kittens when they're nice and young. But definitely you need to get them de-sexed well before they're 6 months of age. So little Jasper was one of 5 kittens that this wee girl had, and I'm not too sure whether there was an underlying congenital problem, but unfortunately 3 of the babies passed away. One of them, a little black and white girl, survived and went on to another family, but Jasper ended up coming here because the lady who gave him to me, or brought him to me, noticed that he had something wrong with one of his legs. She said it was twisted. Now if you have a look closely, you'll see this little leg here is much shorter, and it's got, oops, is he going to play ball? It's actually got a bend in it. It's got a little bend in it. So what we eventually did is I took Jasper along to the vet because I noticed that he just wasn't growing, and his little bent leg is also missing a thumb. Most cats have a sort of a thumb paw. Come here, Jasper. Most cats doesn't want to play ball. Most cats have a thumb paw, a thumb pad on the bottom, just down here. And Jasper's actually missing that on his shorter leg. So I took him along to the vet and got them to have a look at it. And the first vet said to me, "Oh look, he looks like he's got a heart murmur and he might not last that long. And oh no, that leg looks as though it's been broken." But I took him to a second vet and ended up having him x-rayed, and it turns out he's actually missing a bone in this leg, and that gives it the curve that you can see in some of his videos and photos. It doesn't seem to be doing him any harm at all. He certainly races around the house. He is very agile. He gets up and down off the bed, up and down off the kitchen bench. I still don't know how he manages to do that because he is so little. But what he does do is when he's racing around, when he stops, he will usually hold that little paw up rather than putting it down on the ground. Now, what I'm not sure of is whether that's because it's a little bit tender or whether it's simply easier to hold it up because it's not the same length as his other leg, his other front leg, that is. What I also noticed with Jasper is he's on a permanent tilt because he's got that short front leg. His little back legs hold his bottom up a lot higher than what you would expect. Most cats are sort of largely horizontal when they're walking around. Jasper walks like this, which we'll hopefully see in one of the videos. Jasper also has a slight eye defect. A number of months ago, his eye, this eye here, developed a bubble, this one here, developed a bubble, and I took him into the vet, and the vet took one look at him and said, well, that eye has to come out. And I tend to be a little bit wary about making big decisions like that just as soon as I walk in, and I'm very much an advocate of trying to save things before we, you know, make the drastic decision to remove an eye. And so I said to her, look, I really think we need to try and save his little eye. And so what we opted to do was suture that eye shut, just put 2 stitches in it, and that created essentially a natural band-aid to give his eye underneath a chance to heal, and lo and behold, it seems to have worked. He's still got his eye intact, and the bubble has disappeared, and he seems to be doing really well. What has still happened though is he's got a cloudy film on that eye, which, in speaking to an eye specialist, is just nature's way of creating a band-aid on its own. And so over the next 6 months or so, hopefully that discoloration and that cloudiness will go away. But either way, we have managed to keep his eye, which is amazing, and it doesn't seem to bother him at all. Really doesn't bother him at all. So this is little Jasper. He has become a permanent member of our household simply because I fell in love with him. He's my second ever foster fail. So of all the cats I've looked after, there's only Jasper and a little girl named Lucy, who's sadly passed away. They're the only 2 foster cats that I've actually kept. So he's a pretty special little monster. Most people who come to adopt here do want to take Jasper home, but I decided to keep him partly because he's got a beautiful nature, but more so initially because I wasn't too sure what his lifespan was going to be. It seemed he may have had a heart murmur. Certainly he wasn't growing. He's got his funny little leg. He had his eye problem, and I really didn't want to adopt him into a family not knowing what his prognosis was going to be. And so I made the decision to keep him here. And since he's been here, he has become the snuggliest, most gorgeous little creature. He always smells of my perfume because he spends all day basically wrapped around my neck, and if he's not wrapped around my neck, he is curled up with one of the other cats for warmth, or he does sneak underneath the duvet as well. He seems to be a real cuddle monster and really seeks out warmth. So this is our little Jasper, our permanent member of the Urban Farmyard. We have loads and loads of video footage of this little guy, so I am going to stop talking. I'm going to go and put him down for a snack. He loves his food. Honestly, he may be the smallest member of the household, but man, he can run when it's dinner time. He comes and stalks me in the kitchen and races through the house, and he's always first to the food bowl, always. Batters the big cats, including our enormous Maine Coon, bats them all out of the way, and he hoovers food. He also steals food from me. He's discovered that he knows what food bowls look like, and he will drag cups of tea towards him, bowls of cereal, basically anything I'm eating he wants some of. He's a gorgeous little creature, but yeah, being cute means he has developed a few bad habits. So I'm going to head away. Jasper's probably going to go for a snack or a nap, and I'm going to leave you to watch some of his footage. Enjoy.